Your Royal Highness, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, and most importantly, friends. I'm Linda Yu. I'm the Executive Chair of the Royal Commonwealth Society. It is the oldest charity dedicated to the Commonwealth, and we are the proud secretariat to the Commonwealth Youth, Gender and Equality Network. It's a mouthful, so we call it SIGEN. The UN recognized youth voice and gender equality in the Commonwealth. International Women's Day, the theme this year of 2025 is Accelerate Action. A key aspect is supporting the supporters. So gender equality is a critical issue for the Commonwealth, and it requires supporters as well as role models, young leaders, and this is why we're gathered here to celebrate International Women's Day and to highlight the work great work that's being done across the Commonwealth and where we must do more. So we are indeed privileged to be joined by Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Edinburgh. Her work focuses on supporting women and championing gender equality, both globally and in the UK. And I've long admired her. I don't know how she does it, the incredible stamina that she has to be doing this all over the world. So we are immensely grateful that you have taken the time to be here today to support and to celebrate International Women's Day with us. So I do also want to say we're delighted to be at the Ismaili Centre today and being hosted by the Ismaili Council in the UK, because we were privileged to have had Prince Karim, the late Aga Khan, as our esteemed Vice President. His lifelong commitment to education, healthcare, and development has profoundly impacted countless people across the Commonwealth and beyond. His legacy will continue to inspire generations to come. So I'm going to introduce the panel before I welcome Her Royal Highness to give our keynote address. So in a moment, I'm going to welcome up Her Excellency Masanje Mazuka, we call her Chichi, a High Commissioner for Zambia, whose national gender policy is a comprehensive framework designed to address gender inequalities. We're also delighted to be joined by Elizabeth Bose, Deputy High Commissioner for Australia, a country that has funded gender equality as part of their overseas development aid. It is an honor to welcome Your Royal Highness to this event, and please will you join me in welcoming her to the stage to give the opening keynote address.
Thank you very much, Linda. There's a clue in the title, key and note. I have no notes. But it is a great pleasure to be here at the Ismaili Centre this evening and joining all of you for this important panel that we're about to hear. First of all, I would like to pass my condolences to the Ismaili community on the loss of His Highness, the late Aga Khan. I personally knew the Aga Khan, who I have to say was a person of kindness and utmost respect. He personified kindness and love, and I know that you will feel his loss extremely keenly. But what a wonderful opportunity to come here and remember him, whilst we also address the ongoing importance of how we support more women into positions and actually just advance the whole issue of gender equality. Kindness is a theme that I think also runs throughout the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth is a collection of friendly nations. It is designed to support one another and to look at different themes that are common themes in many of the countries, and to help one another to actually advance all of the different things that are good about our nations. We also have common issues. And one of the common issues is that women's voices are not heard in the way that they should be. That's not unique to one country in particular. It's unique to every country. Here in the United Kingdom, I spend a lot of my time trying to foster and promote opportunities for women in different places. And right now, UN Women have stated that were we to actually achieve gender equality, it's going to take another 300 years. I'm not planning on being around then, so I'm not going to be the one to be able to open and unveil that plaque. Hopefully somebody might be. But the reality is we're still facing a massive uphill struggle. And that's for many, many reasons. Now, I'm a realist. I don't pretend that anything's going to be a perfect world. It never can be, let's be honest. But I do think where there are opportunities, we should chase every one of those. Where there is an opportunity to open a door, it should be pushed open. And where we can support, we should be supporting. And young people are our future. We've not done a very good job of it so far. So therefore, we do have to help them take on the baton and to lead the charge forwards. But it's not going to be easy. Therefore, the onus is on us to support them and help them to move the pieces on the chessboard. It gets quite depressing sometimes, actually, when you start to lift the lid and look under the surface and realize that actually, in a lot of ways, we've actually started moving backwards. And the sad reality is there are areas of the world that have moved perhaps into the dark ages again. And that has a ripple effect. We don't just have those issues, we also have issues of extremist understandings where it comes to very male-dominated societies. And those don't have to be in any one part of the world. They're everywhere. We're facing a backlash. We're facing people saying, why is it all about the women? And I just wish they could see that actually follow the figures, follow the money, because if you can see the effect where you bring women into the room, where you give them a voice, where you give them opportunity, it isn't one in, one out. It isn't a competition. We all stand to win. Society stands to win. And therefore, why wouldn't you do it? And it's as plain as the nose on our faces, but it's a very hard thing to get across the line. So really the baton is for the young people here. Today, I hope we're going to hear some interesting things, and I'm actually looking forward to also to be able to speak to some of you afterwards. Really, this evening is your evening, and I'm looking forward to hearing the panels. So I could go on about this forever because I do an awful lot of this work. It keeps on challenging me, but one day I hope I'll be able to say we have shifted the goals. I'm really, really pleased that we have a good representation of our brothers in the room, because guess what? We can't do it without you. We really can't. There's no point in us sitting in a room talking to women, and sometimes, I didn't mean that. There's every point in sitting in the room talking to women. I mean only to women, because otherwise we're talking in a vacuum. We're talking to ourselves. We're convincing ourselves of something we already know. So we need men to be supportive of what we're doing, because it's your voices that carry the weight. It's your voices that will change things, but we can't do it alone. So thank you for being part of this journey. Please stay with us. It would be lovely to see even more men in the room next time, just saying. You're here, but you're not enough. Because it is, we all make up 50% of the population, 50% men, 50% women. So we're in this together, basically. But thank you for inviting me here this evening. I look forward to hearing the panels, and it's a wonderful space to have these conversations in, a space of kindness and values that value women. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Royal Highness. I couldn't have thought of a more privileged and a better way to have you open this session, because We are here to accelerate action by supporting the supporters, and you have been an immense supporter of women, sometimes in places where others fear to tread. So thank you for all of your work. And with that, let's talk about supporting the supporters some more. So if I could ask Chi and Elizabeth to come up and join me. Either side. Thank you. So I think we heard a really striking statistic from Her Royal Highness that according to UN Women, it's going to take 300 years at the current pace to reach gender equality. So I think one of the ways we can accelerate action is to hear about the kind of support that both of your governments have offered. And I think use that as an example of what other governments and other supporters can do. So we know that here in the Ismailis community, there's massive support for programs supporting women. So we know on the philanthropy side, we are just in the right place to do this. But of course, governments play a massive role. So I wanted to start with you, Chi. In terms of Zambia's national gender policy, it's a comprehensive framework. It's designed to address gender inequalities. We'd love to hear about this policy and the ways in which your government is taking action to accelerate equality.
Well, first of all, thank you. It's such a pleasure to be able to be here and to speak with all of you and to engage on this really critical issue. Zambia developed a new framework for our gender policy in 2003, and it was quite aggressive because I think we realized, as probably most African countries and countries around the world, that there's such a huge disparity in terms of support for women, and particularly in the financial sector. Women in business and exposure to whether it is opportunities, et cetera. So the policy was quite broad, and it involved a multi-sectoral approach. So we realized that you need allies. You have to have allies. So similar to what Her Majesty said, that you have to have allies, whether it's male allies, and in this case, from a governmental perspective, it's different departments, so different divisions. So it's really about keeping women's issue as a golden thread throughout the whole development of our country. So whether it's projects in terms of economic development, in addition to ensuring that funding for women's projects are ring-fenced, the new government took a bold approach in terms of decentralizing our funding. In the past, we had centralized government with funding. So from Lusaka, which is the capital city, all the funds were dispersed to all the provinces. So when the new administration came in 2021, we said, no, every province must have their own fund. And then there's a CDF fund, which is called the Community Development Fund. So the idea with that is that each particular area and region, you know your issues, you know what your issues are with youth on the ground, you know what your issues are with women on the ground, and let the locals within that province manage their finances based upon the needs. And so even within that funding, there was money that was ring-fenced specifically for women. I mean, women really are the backbone of our society, and particularly in a lot of African countries, the pressures are quite tremendous. Many work and look after families, cook, clean, but then they tend to be the smartest businesswomen as well. So in order to be the smartest businesswoman to be able to succeed, then that's where the government has come in to support.
Yeah, no, that sounds fantastic. And I think some really good lessons there in terms of thinking about, I love the idea of ring fencing and decentralization. And I think you're right. I think if you want women to lead, you need to support them financially and through the structure of government. So no, it's fantastic to hear. Now, Elizabeth, I know Australia has supported gender equality for a very long time, and I know that you have supported SciGen. Several members are here tonight, and SciGen started in Malta in 2015 with your support. So the Royal Commonwealth Society decided to launch this network of young leaders who are based in all Commonwealth regions, working at the grassroots to promote gender equality, but give them a network so they can learn from each other and share good practice, and also encourage each other when things don't go well, because let's face it, things often don't go well. But your support through a number of grants has enabled their participation at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meetings in Malta, London, Rwanda, as well as at the United Nations. And so we thank you, because that is absolutely tremendous to have young people in the room when CHOGM meets. I have for many years thought that CHOGM was the worst term ever. It could just be the Commonwealth Summit. It's a meeting of Commonwealth leaders. So Elizabeth, just share with us some more on why gender equality is such a priority for the Australian government.
Thanks so much, Linda, and it's a delight to be here in person this year and at this beautiful location. Can I also pass on our condolences on the passing of His late Highness Aga Khan IV. We were speaking earlier about the Ismaili community in Australia, and I know that they have felt his passing very deeply. Gender equality. Well, Australia is about fairness, and gender equality is about fairness. It is absolutely central for Australia nationally and internationally to focus on gender equality, because it's about opening up opportunities so that everyone can thrive. And after all, that's about giving everyone a fair go. And that's a very classic Australian term. So that is one reason why gender equality is so core and central to Australia nationally and in our international engagement. So whether it's looking at policies in our region or on the broader global stage, we will always use our tools of diplomacy to advance the global gender equality agenda for the benefit of all. It's hard not to be depressed, because I think we have seen some of the gains that have taken place over recent decades under challenge. And indeed, if we look at the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw what could be described as a generational loss of some of those gender equality rights that had been fought for. And that has a real impact, because that then impacts the achievement of peace, the resolution of conflict, the achievement of economic prosperity for all, which in turn has a global negative impact. Now, we all know that including women in peace negotiations, for example, is a key indicator for a lasting peace. But I just think that's a broader example of including diverse voices and inclusivity more generally, to ensure that there are different points of view brought to the table. But certainly gender equality, bringing women into peace negotiations, is key to achieving the resolution of conflict, economic prosperity, social cohesion. So that's another reason, and that's the broader context within which Australia is working at the moment. We also have a national strategy on gender equality, which was launched just last year. And for us, it sets out a vision of what Australia should and could be, which is safe, respectful, having opportunities and outcomes for all, access to resources for all, regardless of gender. But just 2 weeks ago, in fact, our Foreign Minister, the Honourable Penny Wong, just launched our International Gender Equality Strategy. And that really does put gender equality at the heart of our international engagement. So the timing for this panel this evening is really superb. And what it does is focus on using all of our tools of diplomacy. So be that bilateral, multilateral diplomacy, be that trade policy, be that security, peace and security, be that humanitarian assistance or international development assistance. All of those tools of foreign policy to advance gender equality globally, because we believe in fairness in Australia, but also globally. And if I might just give one very quick example of my own work where we've really incorporated gender equality in advancing the Australia-UK Free Trade Agreement. We're the first free trade agreement to include a dedicated standalone chapter on trade and gender equality, which is all about supporting women entrepreneurs to access markets, access the financial services they need to thrive, and to access those leadership networks. So that's one small contribution that I feel my work has directly made, which is completely consistent with Australia's approach.
No, it's a great thing to see. I think that was actually the first FTA signed by the UK after Brexit.
Yes, that's correct.
So I'm delighted to see this is the direction that trade policy is headed down. And Her Royal Highness mentioned allies. You mentioned allies. So I asked this question the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at Chogum, and he gave the answer that he had given the same question that I had asked both of you around why gender equality is important. He said this in the media before too. And I said, why do you have a gender equal cabinet? He said, because it's 2024.
That's right.
That was literally the answer. And he says, when people ask him, it's, wouldn't it be lovely if that became the norm? I think I want to move to advice, because both of you are supremely successful leading female diplomats. You have a seat at the table. And I think the advice that you could offer, especially, I mentioned we have sideline young leaders here, as well as associate fellows of the RCS, who are mostly former Queen's Young leaders, but also leading young leaders in their communities, as well as, of course, the community leaders from the Ismaili community. I think we would all love to hear any advice, any tips about how did you do it? How did you get here? What's your secret?
A bit of not a loaded question, but well, from my standpoint, I'm very new to the diplomatic corps. So I'm what you call.
Oh, you cannot tell.
No.
I mean, you are honestly.
No, thank you. I am very new to the diplomatic corps. It's actually my first posting. So I'm what you call a political appointee. So obviously you have political appointees, and then you have your career diplomats. I was plucked out of the private sector. So I've been in media for the last 30 years. So that's really been my main foray and my main career in all facets of media, educational media, on air, behind the camera, pulling tables from soup to nuts. And then finally into executive management. And then because we had a change in government, a different set of people to do different things, because there's always a blend. So I think what they say, there tends to be a saying that says, every step you go along the way, always do your best, because you never know what is preparing you for in the future. And I am just amazed at how many skills from my previous career are being utilized in this current career, whether it's negotiations, whether it's discussions, whether it's speaking in front of people, whether it's engaging with, people you know well and people you don't know well, deal making, etc. So I think sometimes you never know where your journey is going to end. So just trust every step along the way and always do your best. And be kind to people, because you never know who you're going to meet. As they always say, the people you meet on the way up are the people you're going to meet on the way down. So kindness never fails. You always want to leave someone in a better spirit from having met you and engaged with you. So that's something that I always try to do, just in general. Being flexible, well, number one, knowledgeable. I think trying to get as much knowledge as you can around whatever field it is that you're involved in. Flexibility, being able to pivot. Things change so quickly. Look at what's happening to the world. We had to pivot in the last 30 days, didn't we? Everyone had to pivot. Your minds, your whole outlook on life, and how you react. And then maybe for women, some forgiveness. Forgive yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. Some of us are mothers. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and I'm a career woman. And I was... I took a class many years ago, and this was at the New School University in New York when I was studying my master's. And it was a leadership course on media. And the teacher, the professor there said, "You can't have it all." And I said, "No, but you can. Why not? You know, you're 20 and you're like, yes, I can have it all. I can have it." And he says, "No, you can't." And I remember thinking to myself, well, I'm going to prove him wrong. I think you can have it all, you know. And years later, you find that, yes, you can, but it may not all be at the same time. So you have to allow yourself that forgiveness along the way, and particularly women who are mothers. There's some guilt sometimes, but also you're modeling. So it's how you look at it. So I think that forgiveness for yourself.
Lovely advice. Thank you. Elizabeth, same question to you.
Well, I reflected on this, and one of the key influences on my career have actually been men. And it goes to the point that Your Royal Highness made earlier. There need to be men to support women. And certainly in my career, I've been very fortunate. I've had senior mentors who are men who identified opportunities for me and supported me in realizing those opportunities. And that was really impactful. So having that role model from a male perspective, modeling support for women, is really impactful and helps all the women in the room. For me also, I've found having strong role models who are also women, senior diplomats such as yourself, wonderful to observe and learn lessons from, and also to think about how I can put myself in their place and really identify with them. For me, having those networks of strong women is also really important. So not only speaking with women, but having strong networks. So here in London, there's a lovely network of female deputy heads of mission. There's quite a few of us. Fewer heads of mission, fewer female heads of mission, but a number of female deputy heads of mission. And so we have a lovely network where we get together, meet a senior female journalist, politician, leader, and have an informal conversation. And it's really quite enlightening. It's also a nice space to have those sorts of frank, personal and professional conversations that can really be illuminating, and we can learn from each other. What I would say too is just be open to opportunities, because they can arise in unexpected ways, and perhaps don't think too hard about taking them. So be a little bit impulsive and take the opportunities. And finally, what I like to try and do is pay it forward and think about how I've benefited over my career and do that the same for the next wave of junior female diplomats, for example. So identify opportunities, support them, encourage advocacy, representation, to hone those skills, bring them along to meetings with senior diplomats, because that's the way you learn. But bringing them into the room, because really the most important thing is to be at the table, because women have a lot to bring to the table, but we have to be there.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Fantastic advice there. And in fact, that's actually a joke in Brussels. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
That's true.
That's fascinating about female deputy heads of mission. So I learned this the other day when I was at Stanford, which is in Silicon Valley, there's a lot of, entrepreneurs, CEOs, entrepreneurs, founders, and they tend to be men. And so there is an informal group of chief operating officers. So COOs, the people who actually do the work, in my translation. There are 33 of them, and they're all women. And they meet every month, and they share advice, they support each other. And sometimes I'm told it goes something like this. I had to tell so-and-so, I'm not going to name this startup. You can't do that. You have a board. You really can't do that. It's now 11 o'clock. I have to go to sleep. But I just think, when you have moments of challenge, having a supportive network is so important, and I think that is completely not inconsistent with having, a a gender diverse, group. But I do think both of these things are important. So I'm going to add my 2 cents worth before we wrap up and turn to advice. One of them has to do with networking. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands because I don't want to put anybody on the spot. But sociological studies say there's a difference between the way men and women network. So I'm just going to generalize. A man will go hang out with anybody. Apparently, they are a little bit, whereas women like deep relationships. They like to network with people that they build deep relationships with. It's called the strength of weak ties. So in your personal life, deep ties are great, but in working, in employment, in jobs, in becoming senior diplomats, it's actually hearing about opportunities, being in the frame. So therefore, weaker ties is actually more useful for advancement in your careers. And that's called the strength of weak ties. It's a theory by Mark Granovetter, the sociologist. So I often bear that in mind when I'm feeling tired and I don't really want to go and go to a reception. I think, no, actually, no, I should, because the sociological study tells me I should. and then the final bit of advice is actually not from me. It's provoked by what you said, Tutu, which is it's from Maya Angelou, who said, I've learned that people don't remember what you said, they don't remember what you did, but they remember how you made them feel. And to me, that is the kind of, hopefully, the feeling that we've engendered tonight with your lovely insights and your personal advice. I want to thank you both very much for kindly taking the time out of your busy schedules to come and speak to us and celebrate International Women's Day. A very warm round of applause, please. So before we wrap up for the evening, I am very happy to say, I think I can welcome back Her Royal Highness to close the proceedings. So please join me in welcoming back up to the stage Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Edinburgh.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm moving to Australia. You've got it so sorted. And you're not going to remember a thing I said, according to Linda, or a thing that I did. But I hope you remember how you feel when we actually managed to get together and actually had some more interactions afterwards. Because I have to say, when the Queen's Young Leaders programme was started, it was a pure joy to go around the world and to catch up with some of these young people in their countries where they showcased all of the different incredible things that they were doing, which were having such impact on the ground. The ideas that they were having for future businesses and programs and everything were absolutely inspiring. And I just wish, you could bottle that, the energy and the inspiration. And this was from men and women, and it was totally equal, which was absolutely incredible. And they won on merit, and not because of who they are or what they were or anything, but they won on merit. And it was something that I was delighted was continued, and I'm glad that this legacy is continuing, because it really is important, and they do have resonance. So I know we've got a few of them here this evening, but it's been pure joy to go around the world, meeting up with various of them in my time. But that's probably enough talking. You probably want to get together and actually network, as Linda was saying, because that's what it's all about. But I think it's actually really important to recognize that, men and women are great together, and that we come at things from a different angle, a different perspective. But that's what makes things work. That's what makes things great. But let's celebrate the differences and celebrate the unification as well, because together we can do so much. And as I said before, this is not a competition. This is about society winning as a whole. And let's make this International Women's Day a celebration whilst recognizing the challenges and support those young people that are our future. So thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you so much, Your Royal Highness. And thank you to each of you for taking the time to be with us this evening. So I am just going to give you two bits of wrap up. So one is, please become involved in the work of SciGen. I think you have some information on your chairs. We are absolutely thrilled to be secretariat to this incredible group who do things every day that I think are just absolutely inspiring and can accelerate action. And then the second thing to say is Happy International Women's Day.